Okay, for part of this this particular topic, I'd actually like to um, read what I put as a description for that relates to this and the next video. So because it's not spoken in there, I don't know if anybody will read it. So on the LDS Gospel Topics essays regarding DNA and the Native Americans, I put this other one here: DNA and Patriarchal Blessings for Lamanites. Okay, here we go. So here's what I have to say. I'm gonna investigate in this video up next how patriarchal blessings really relate to that subject. But here's the other information I want to say. So patriarchal blessings are keys to the subject of Book of Mormon historicity versus Native American DNA studies, which have been a major challenge for LDS Mormon apologetics heroes, from farms to Fair Mormon and the Lone Rangers who are out there, and like Jeff Lindsay and so forth, I suppose. And it's even made it to the Gospel Topics essays on LDS.org, which essays the church has buried these deep in the website for several years, but's now using them to inoculate members against the growing accessibility of information, revealing the gap between the historicity of what is taught in Sunday school and the scriptures and provable history. The essays are rendered under the guise of providing accurate information for LDS church members, while the section introduction portrays that seeking information outside the safety of LDS.org as risking being deceived by the minions of the dark side, lying in wait with cleverly crafted, unreliable, and inaccurate internet content. Condemning one-sided presentations, the saints are assured of broadly sourced, in-depth essays by the faithful, wise, and trustworthy essay writers whose work is officially approved by the First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 Apostles. It is therefore inferred that the information and topics presented or presentation featuring, I screwed up there. Anyway, what's featured is they're going to be featuring the most pertinent sources and information to the subject that we're being educated on by reading the selected Gospel Topics essays. However, instead of the relevant scriptural and other pertinent primary source material one would anticipate to be referenced and expounded upon, we find diversion and polemic apologetics greeting us in a system designed to filter the information church members receive, which is a classic technique used for groupthink, thought control, by organizations like Scientology, the People's Temple, Watchtower, Bible and Tract Society, better known as to the Mormons as the J-Dubs, who can't afford for their members to compare historical data with official doctrines, especially histories and doctrines that tend to change when contradicting truth appears in plain sight. And that's kind of the way things have gone with the DNA study. So when the DNA studies came out showing that the Native American tribes actually originated in northern Asia, that became a problem. So the claim that that the Lamanites were the primary ancestors of the American Indians in the Book of Mormon introduction was now changed to, well, they are among them. So that kind of backpedaling is what these seem to be about. The pertinent information doesn't seem to be given in any of them, and then we're told we can't figure it out, so we just need to pray about it. Actually, we need to look at real source material, which tends to be ignored in these essays, despite what the church said. Right here, it says the church disavows the theories advanced in the past that the black skin is a sign of disfavor or a curse. We disproved that straight out of Book of Mormon. Since the essays delivered the opposite of what they promised, even excluding the scriptures, we'll have to compare them to our own research. So just as we saw in Nephi
Second Nephi chapter 5, starting off, when the Lamanites were cursed, so the Lord cursed them and caused them to have a skin of blackness come upon them, that it was a mark that he set upon them, and that it was to separate them from the Nephites so that they would be loathsome to the Nephites, and that they might not mix with the Nephites, and whoever did mingle his seed with the Lamanites would be cursed with the same curse of dark skin that the Lamanites had. Also, we saw that theme repeated multiple times, and then we saw the Lamanites turn white in 3 Nephi chapter 2 when they repented, and some of them repented and joined the Nephites, and the Lord whited them out. So that was exactly the opposite of everything that was said in regards to that, where the brethren officially denied that and said they disavowed such doctrines, and that God had created all races equally and loved, cared about them equally, and so forth. And scripture after scripture was the exact opposite of what we saw in the gospel topic essay there. So they were apparently disavowing the scriptures supposedly revealed by God to Joseph Smith and calling that theory. So time after time we've seen in the gospel essays the theme that we can't figure things out for ourselves, we need to pray about it. They didn't say that in that particular essay, but they did in the Book of Abraham, and they did in the DNA, and some others, I believe. Here I've got the Promised Land. That's a talk given by Jeffrey Holland. He's an apostle at this point. I think he was head of BYU back then in the 70 or something, 1976. So yeah, here he goes through the whole theme. America was preserved for the promised people, the chosen people, that after the flood of Noah, that the Jaredites had the land all to themselves, and that, it says in the Book of Mormon, the Lord controlled who was able to come here and who wasn't, so that he preserved the land, because many nations would overrun the land. And here Elder Holland even says that, well, the Lord separated the earth, like it says in the days of Peleg, and surrounded the Americas with water to preserve them. That doesn't go too well with the DNA essay, which suggests that they could have come across on a land bridge. Of course, we know that land bridge is supposedly 12,000 years ago or something. So that's a long time before Adam, and evidently they didn't get washed off by the flood of Noah. So those are some big problems there. At any rate, we saw that we went to the scriptures in the race and the priesthood. We had to go to the scriptures. The essay didn't provide the obvious evidence that contradicted their own thesis there, wherein they'd already said we're all about giving something that's not one-sided, but apparently they didn't feel that the LDS scripture was worth putting in there. That same race and the priesthood essay said that they disavowed the theory that people had a lesser standing, or let's say they were, because they misbehaved in the premortal existence. I'm ad libbing. We've read it numerous times, straight out of the gospel essay. But that same doctrine is what is used in the Patriarchal Blessings, where people are told they're from Ephraim or Manasseh, and they were preserved for the latter days to join the church because they were so valiant in the premortal existence. That's the same thing that was used to say why the blacks couldn't have the priesthood, or someone had circumstances that were less favorable when they were born, so because they weren't so hot in the qualifying rounds. So this Jeffrey Holland one is pretty interesting, because it really conflicts with the whole DNA essay thing they got on now. So we can see that's from the June 1976 Ensign, obtainable on LDS.org. And in case it's difficult for people to find, here's how you get around in there. You go to the bottom of the website. Bottom of any page. This is a nice long page, isn't it? Okay. Site map. That's how to get around LDS.org. You don't have to have everything hidden from you. So there you got the scriptures and so forth. And here are the gospel topics. Find the topics. So you go to the gospel topics. You get to the essays, and you can read. Actually, it was probably better to... Okay, yeah. Exploring the essays is where they really give us the pitch here on why you need to restrict your searching for wisdom to LDS.org, because the information out there in other places is just not going to be dependable. So they don't believe, and so the Lord doesn't, want us to have a one-sided view and all that sort of thing. Read it really carefully, because it's exactly the opposite of what the topics do. Here it says, seeking out of the best books does not mean seeking only one set of opinions, but it does require us to distinguish between reliable sources and unreliable. Then, recognizing that today so much information about the church can be obtained from questionable and often inaccurate sources, the officials of the church began in 2013 to write these straightforward, in-depth essays. Right, straightforward and in-depth. And then told us that where the material can be more easily accessed and studied by church members and others. But it's been buried for 3 years. It's completely one-sided. They ignored the pertinent information and even the LDS scriptures, of course, because they absolutely contradict what they're saying in some of them, like the priesthood one. And as far as being, as far as being diverse sources, yeah, they have nothing to do with the real issue, which is Jesus guiding the church. American history and what people else outside the church are doing, what social influences are, as far as them determining how to deal with people of other races, is not how a church guided by Jesus Christ goes. Prophets are called to tell people to do something different from social norms that are problematic, not to follow the crowd. So they're saying for 150 years they were just following the crowd. Does that really make sense? So you know how to get to the essays. Carefully read them and compare what they're delivering to what it says it's here for. And then we'll be back with more detail on a lot of these, or sources like, there are multiple sources where the information is available that they're refusing to put on here. And you're probably smart enough to tell fact from opinion. You can always fact check it, and that's mostly what I see out here is fact. So in the video with a similar name to this, we're going to be discussing how Patriarchal Blessings seem to fit into this, along with some other things. Noticing that since we're 3 tribes of Nephites, Ephraim, Manasseh, and Judah, I only seem to know of Lamanite people who they always seem to be from Manasseh, in case I'm wrong. So, most other folks come in and they said their lineage was from Ephraim. How does that work? 3 tribes here and they all happen to be from one? How about all the Polynesians, so forth? They're always from Manasseh, like the Lamanites, built some canoes and went over there or something. Anyway, we'll get into that later. So, we're looking to see if the church does what it says it is on these essays, or if the ever-changing history and doctrine seem to be a problem. Just like the church's name, that was a good one too. So, entonces, mis amigos lamanitas, ¿de qué familia viene ustedes? Manasseh? I think so, probably. So, search for the truth. LDS.org has a lot of it. Maybe not on the essays, but you can find the scriptures in there pretty well. Good luck on it. We'll see you in the next video.